Now we have the panel on real media, sitting in front of a lot of real people. Let me introduce you to a real mensch, Jeff Pulver. We met many times. Jeff, Jeff, come here. Jeff, what are you doing in real life?
Living in real time and exploring really what's happening around us, the real-time web, and really having some fun exploring the changes to the ecosystems we're working in. So today's session, we're going to take a look at the emerging real-time internet from a few very interesting perspectives and take a look at how the world's really changed and continues to change. Just a short story from my side. I grew up, as a kid, I had amateur radio. I don't know how popular it was, amateur radio is or was in Europe. But as a kid, it was my way to communicate with the world. It was my first opportunity to be social. And it was a medium for me to connect with people. And during times of crisis, I usually tried to help as best as I could by sharing messages from places outside the United States to people in the U.S. And recently, this past week or so, actually ever since the Haiti earthquake hit, I felt myself pulled into what was happening by being more than just a casual observer. And a friend of mine who's a reporter for NBC News, Ann Curry, she was reporting on all this, and I just noticed the real-time web affected me in a very almost bizarre way, that I simply went on Twitter and retweeted a message that Doctors Without Borders were having trouble landing a plane in Port-au-Prince. And I noticed that Ann actually did a shout-out to the U.S. Air Force for help, and I just retweeted that. And once I saw what was happening, I got a tweet back from the U.S. Air Force that they're on it, which is kind of bizarre, actually. And then an hour later, after this plane actually landed, I got a tweet from the U.S. Air Force saying the plane landed. And then I realized that, I'm actually connecting with authorities much bigger than me in a way that I never really had a face or a name to a government agency before. And I happened to be running conferences. I'm running an event in New York City about this real-time web, and so why not invite them? So I did. Next thing I know, I'm emailing with the Pentagon. And it's like, this all happened like over the course of a couple of days, and then Daily News wrote a story about what had happened, not about the individuals, but just the fact that a tweet went out that was amplified by a bunch of people, and that all of a sudden a cargo plane with doctors was able to land in Port-au-Prince. And kind of like brought back the message to me that we're living in this world where things are different. I can tell you, being in New York City after 9/11, one of the biggest takeaways from all that was that we all needed to communicate better. That the police department, the fire department, the folks from the FBI, all different civil servants, all trying to help, we're all on different radio frequencies. And afterwards, we've been able to figure that out, how to homogenize the communication. But everyone was on a different channel. And for the first time in a very long time, in the case of Haiti, we're all on the same frequency. And when all these various diverse people are all on that same frequency, a great change can happen, messages can occur. I also noticed that Wycliffe Jean, when he put a shout out, there's certainly in the last few years we've seen the rise of flash mobs. But what Wycliffe, I think, invented without realizing it is flash money. When he suggested to people to SMS a message to Yele, he raised $400,000 practically overnight and $2 million in a few days. And then the American Red Cross used that methodology, generated $10 million, like instantaneously. I mean, that's right. I mean, this is change. It changes the way we operate and live and work. And that I think that the real-time web, while it has its challenges, I think that we're living in a different time. It wasn't that long ago that our generic internet experience was going to places like search engines and asking questions. But when people can actually have their own voice amplified and stand up and affect change, it sort of brings us into a new phase of where we are. And when I look at the real-time web, it's an interesting place in time. I had worked on Wall Street, and I could tell you that arbitrage was always and will be a big business, and that a couple of earthquakes ago in California, there was a 40-minute gap between the time it was reported on Twitter and the time it showed up on news.google.com. From a Wall Street perspective, that's arbitrage. And if you actually understood the types of stocks and markets that were affected by earthquakes, and you had a few seconds in advance warning, you could affect tremendous change. If you had 40 minutes of certainty of the future, we're talking billions of dollars of opportunity. And I do think the world of finance has a lot to learn from the ability to be predictive and accurate in that, while other people may game the system in the future, this real-time web has a potential for great things to happen. Politicians to be put into office, people to share experience themselves, and the growth of brands, right, where people can disintermediate the platforms, whether it's a musician, an actor, and all of a sudden be their own brand, which is kind of scary to the ecosystems in the old school which they came from. So that's my quick take on the real-time web. I'd like to introduce Raj from Tinker, who's going to share his perspective. We're going to do about 5 minutes each, I think, of intros, and then we're going to do Q&A with ourselves and with the audience.
Hello. Hi. Yeah. So my interest in the real-time web is actually a lot on the, the way people start consuming content in the real-time web, right? I mean, the real-time web is very quickly starting to become the new medium, if you will, for consuming information, news, and entertainment. I don't know how many of you do this, but I'm pretty sure all of us do. Whenever we wake up in the morning, we don't turn on the TV to watch CNN. We launch our favorite Twitter client, and that's where we get our news. That's where we get our entertainment from every day.
You talk louder. They can't hear you.
Get it closer.
Get it closer.
Eat the microphone.
Okay.
Eat it.
So that's.
There you go. Yeah.
That's the kind of medium this thing is turning out to, and I'd like to borrow something that Jeff used to talk about this all the time. Is he calls it the now medium, right? It's you're living in the now, and that's the information that's in your fingertips, and it's something that's growing so rapidly. I mean, the numbers are just mind-boggling. If you just look at the volume of content being produced out of Twitter, we're talking about 30 million, 40 million posts a day. If you look at Facebook, it's probably double, if not triple that. So it's a real challenge for consumers who are sort of turning to this new medium to consume this information. How to sift through all that noise, how to sift through that content to actually extract the value that they really want out of it, and find the content that they're looking for. So that's one of the challenges that I'm very eager to tackle and find solutions for is how to apply different kinds of filters. There are certain filters that I think are very basic, fundamental filters that companies like Twitter that are building the plumbing for this sort of have to provide, and they've done so quite well. One of these things is, of course, the topical filters, like through keyword searches and things like that. And another sort of people filters that they've launched relatively recently with sort of lists and things like that help filter down even some more. And of course, recently, all of the geolocation stuff that's been coming out of Facebook and Twitter definitely helps a lot in figuring out, honing in on the kind of topic that you want. And if you look at the DLD site today, for example, you'll see, filters on the people that are attending the conference and speaking at the conference, right? So you can very quickly see, what the speakers are saying, what the general public is saying that's attending the conference. What they're saying about us, right? I mean, I'm sure people are commenting as we speak right now. So, being able to, these kind of forums where there's a central topic, there are different sessions, those kind of topical separations help a lot in terms of consuming content. And this also has, not just implications for people that are consuming the content, but also people that are producing the content. Just like blogs made it very, very easy for the average person to be able to, become a publisher. And sort of, give newspapers a run for their money, the real-time web is doing for the mass audience, right? I mean, everyone here is not just a consumer of this content on the real-time web, but there's also a producer of it, right? So, when you look at publishers, they're also looking at, how do I attract an audience and get my voice across and get what I'm trying to say across? That's it's hard to do because, again, you're buried under 40 million posts or 50 million posts a day, right? So how do you go about doing that? So that's definitely a challenge that requires a lot of tools and requires a lot of innovative solutions to figure out.
Oh, great. Loic, you want to show us something? And take the. It's on.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Loic Le Meur, and last year at DLD I presented a video service, and in 1 year I changed my entire company. So Sysmic is now all about Twitter, and we got 4 million downloads of our application, which can run on your BlackBerry, on your Android phone, on your iPhone in 2 weeks, and also on the web and on desktop. So we're the only Twitter application which is on so many screens, 4 million downloads, 1 million users now. That's my computer, which just went to sleep. I wanted to just, in a few minutes, share with you where I think this is going in terms of a real-time web, and use for this the result of that vision or that experiment we've been doing. We've been shipping Twitter clients basically all year long in 2009. For those of you who use it, you know that we release like crazy. And there is one problem, I think, where this should go, is that it should reach the mainstream. we should stop only addressing the geeks and the power user. And it's very tough because the geeks are the ones like Jeff who are using it the most and spreading the most. But what we've done is we've decided that to go to the next level, Twitter should go from 60 million to the 300 million users, or even like why not 500 million or more. It needs to be extremely simple. And it's not there yet. So we thought as Sysmic that we would help. And what we've done is we created a new application called Sysmic Look, which is behind me. And it's showing what you tweet right now, actually. As you can see in a very cool, I think at least, like a screensaver type of,
Pointcast.
Pointcast 4.0. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, that's a good joke. And so the first thing it does is that it should be used without a Twitter client. So if you give this to your sister who is not a geek, or to my mother, it should work as is. And so I'm not logged in at all. That's the very first Twitter client that doesn't need you to have a Twitter username. And we're supported by Twitter, as you can see. It says powered by Twitter. We have interests. Also, the second thing is people need to find trust. And they're lost on Twitter. They don't know who to follow. It's very difficult, and Twitter is also working in that direction. They just released that a few days ago. But what we've done here is a very easy to follow directory where it opens on news, and here you can find very brands that you will recognize very easily. So New York Times, CNN, and all those sources, which you can always go into this. I call it the TV mode because it can be used with a remote control. It can be used with touch. And you can just watch Twitter. That's what we're trying to do, just watch Twitter. And just to go really fast, so this is the news. You can watch the news on Twitter. We have celebrities, so Ashton Kutcher. And you can see as you change from one user to another, that the entire app changes into the background of that user. So it feels like a game as you play with it. So it's not a power user tool, very easy to use. And also, I think, a totally different experience to Twitter. Paris Hilton. Let's see what she writes. Here we go. You can see the pictures. You can see the pictures resolve as well. My mother doesn't know what TweetPic is. So we made it really easy. The pictures show up, and she has nothing to do to use it. Notice I'm still not logged in. I have not put my Twitter name in there. And we also have events. I just want to show you because we have obviously... in the events category, we obviously have a DLD conference. And I'm almost done, Jeff. Yes, almost done. So that's the DLD conference. We also have search. So if you want to see what people are saying about the DLD conference, if you tweet right now, it will show here. And you can also have it. You can also have it in a obviously in a mode which is this TV mode. I'm going to now log in. Notice that I've still not done that. And now that I'm logged in, obviously I can tweet from it and share with my friends. 30 seconds. Yeah, 30 seconds. Just to tell you, we also have. We think that the brands are very important, and no one had ever integrated the brands the way we did in Sysmic Look and media. So here's channels. So we're trying to have this TV metaphor. So we have channels with like the Huffington Post, for example. Which, again, popular brands that you recognize and which people like, also Red Bull and others. So it's an experiment to reach the mainstream, which we launched 2 days ago, 3 days ago, and got already 50,000 users. So we're very proud of it, and I think that's the next limit release to try and reach the mainstream and not only the geeks. That's it for me. And I can put your PowerPoint if you like.
What?
Do you want your PowerPoint now?
Yeah, bring it up. So just to interject a few thoughts here in between, I do want to just raise the point that I actually think social media is going away. That those of you who today call yourselves a social media guru or expert, you should find a new job. That really what we're experiencing today is sort of the evolution of communications. That as a society, we will start to, if not already, start to feel the effects of hypercommunications. Because whether you're how many people here are on Facebook? Oh, and how many people here are tired of their friends' updates on Facebook? You should unfriend these guys, okay? The reality is that you're living at a time where we're getting more information about people's presence and information than we really care to process, yet we're politely not sure what to do about it. We're living at a time where the ecosystems around us are evolving quite rapidly, but I think what you're really feeling, although you're not seeing today, is the evolution of how we communicate as people. And that in the future, the communication systems will be the ones that actually drive these metaphors more connected, because they're the ones that have vested interest to help people connect, share, engage, and listen to each other, much more than any particular network out there by itself. And that while it's organic, this is a tectonic shift in how the world communicates, and that in the near future, these networks will be, I think, more personal. I think you'll own your own data. You'll figure out how this all works, and that we're going to connect in a way that's much bigger than us. As we get there, I think there'll be wonderful tools to help us figure out what's going on. But I think that the evolution of social media is just a transitional phrase. As much as you could take advantage, you could assume that there'll be a ray of light and a breath of air, and there's a wave to look at outside in the ocean. That's where I think this really goes. This is part of the human experience, and that what I learned from this is actually serendipity and humanity are things those people who are engaged on social networks start to feel humanity at a level they never knew was possible, because these status updates give us a sense of presence, which is hard to explain, but you can experience it as a person. And that brands that are successful in this world realize behind people their tweets, and that you can connect that there's a real level of humanity here, that in caring. So I caution you not to be so connected to social media, because I really think it's the human experience. And the person who's speaking next knows a lot about that. So going up, and Nakastet, please.
That was beautiful. I would now like to undermine everything he just said.
Thank you.
My name is Baratunde Thurston. I have a lot of jobs, but I'm here, and my job is web editor for The Onion, which is a satire magazine and news source and video and podcast, Peabody Award-winning video news service as well. Our motto is Tu stultus est, which is Latin for you are dumb. We're in an age of participatory media, and where you're taught as a publisher to respect the opinions of your audience. We do not do that, and they love the abuse. Quick history for those who don't know, we're not as big in Europe as we are in the US. We're actually founded by a German, Friedrich Zwiebel. He came over in 1765 and started the Mercantile Onion. And he did that because these were the only two English words that he knew. So it's a very logical thing to do. He then passed power to T. Hermann Zwiebel, who reigned for over 100 years. In 2001, that's not the date of death. That's the date he left the Earth's atmosphere in a rocket, vowing to return when there was a cure for the old. So he's still waiting for that. We've covered every major event in U.S. history and world history, really. Earthquake marking the least gay day in San Francisco history. We obviously remember the great moon landing, of course, which was, everyone knows that, has that headline in their living room. And of course, when George W. Bush took office, we covered his inauguration speech like no one else. Our long national nightmare of peace and prosperity is finally over, and that proved frighteningly accurate. So as a publisher, this kind of combines some of what Loic was talking about with trying to be more mainstream with this whole real-time term, and what Raj was talking about with publishers trying to be where their audience and community are. At The Onion, we've taken steps to do just that. We've gone from a weekly print newspaper to multimedia formats to really intervening in the experience of the real-time web. Here are 3 quick examples. There's nothing like real-time, to compare to real-time publishing outside of an election. There are exit polls, there's accusations of fraud, there are a lot of speculation before the polls actually close. And in 2008, a movement started called Twitter Vote Report, where people accurately tried to relay what was going on at their polling stations, who they voted for, what were the conditions. And so what we did at The Onion is, throughout the day, we interrupted this hashtag on Twitter with our own Twitter vote reports. So you have this example here, Christopher Nathan's 18 cast an informed vote for president, and half a dozen ignorant votes for mayor, governor, county sheriff, and some ballot initiative about term limits or banks or something. So if you are a voting rights lawyer mining this feed looking for trends, every once in a while, you got a little stab in the back from us, just to remind you that we're there. Obviously, the election turned out well for most, terrible for Barack Obama. The Oscars, this again is a great event, around events, that's where you have a high velocity and high engagement of a large group of people around a shared cultural experience. So people are constantly tweeting about the Oscars, and in real time, The Onion posted updates to the Oscars with what was happening on stage. So Helvetica Bold Oblique sweeps Fonties, or Area Man honored to be one who added death date to Heath Ledger's Wikipedia page. Now, that was a way of recirculating existing content, but we also wrote new content just for this beautiful cultural moment. Film star Charlton Heston passed away in April at age 84. He's survived by 5 guns, 14 grand guns, and 11 great grand guns. And again, for people, whether it's MTV or someone at home in their pajamas or Snuggies or whatever, they see this interrupting their view of the Oscars, so it's like we're in the living room with them, telling them what's important. And then finally, getting into legitimate breaking news, our model of web publishing has changed to really keep up and even exceed the capabilities of your CNNs, New York Times, and other major media outlets. So Lou Dobbs is a famous American news and opinion maker who really had a thing against illegal immigrants. He got a lot of pressure, worked at CNN, and suddenly quit on November 11th, at which point we posted the tweet in the top left corner, breaking, Lou Dobbs deported from U.S., CNN host living illegally in country since 1961. You click through that, you got a 2-graph update, said we're pursuing this developing story, and the next day we posted the full thing with photos of his Latin American family and him being hauled away by DHS. The irony was beautiful, the comedy was true. Wow. Now that's The Onion. There's another quick example of 1 minute, I'm well within it. So there's a TwitCom going on Twitter right now. This is a slightly different flavor, but you've got 7 comedians. I'm not either of them. I just found this and sort of like showcase someone else's work. And they've created a set of 7 characters playing out in pseudo real time this unfolding drama of a sitcom. It stars needy girlfriend, her aloof boyfriend, the black friend, guy down the hall, overbearing mother, the perfect sis, and cliche stoner. And you can find it on this list. I definitely say tune in to this particular list, tune into this TwitCom, and see how creative people are trying to take advantage of this web, not necessarily building tools for filtering, but making a reason to extend the art into this fast-moving slice and dice platform. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So we have intentionally left time over for questions from you, the audience. If you'd like to use the microphones and stand up and state questions so that when it's being recorded, we have your voice, that'd be terrific. So questions, please? You accept everything that we said is fact? Are you kidding? No? Well, all right. So, but feel free to stand up and ask questions. But in the meanwhile, Loic, so how, I actually happen to be an investor in Seismic, and I'm just...
We agreed you wouldn't say it.
Well, just so people
hide
understand.
it, so
I'm
that...
also an investor in Twitter and some other platforms, but I'm just curious, from the time you were trying to promote video to the time you changed it to be an interesting version of Pointcast, what did you do? What prompted you? What happened to video?
We have, I had a dream, which
you
I
had a
still
dream.
have,
We all have dreams.
That we all would talk in video much more because it's very human. You love video too.
I do.
And it's very like, it's almost like meeting you in person, and you can feel that on Skype, but I wanted to do it in an asynchronous way so that you can, we can do it in an easier way to do.
I love that idea.
It's still up, it's on seismic.tv, but it happened that it has not grown. It has reached like 100,000 users, and then it didn't grow. And I made a big mistake as an entrepreneur, is that I took a little bit myself, or you, Jeff, as people using that stuff without caring too much. Well, the people in the street don't like video. They're shy, they don't like their image online, and there wasn't a technology problem, but there was a human issue, and I think it will work. I will talk about it, but more in 5 years. So I think as an entrepreneur, it's a big mistake if you have a wall like this just in front of you and you don't change immediately. So we actually at DLD last year, when I came back, I started reinventing the company entirely, and now we're getting a million users.
I congratulate you on shifting vision. It's just that since 1964, in the 64 World's Fair, when AT&T showed us video, I thought there'd be a generation or 2 or 3 that actually would embrace it, and I'm still waiting.
No, I just saw this guy.
Oh, a question. Go ahead.
Hi, David
Just state your
Blumberg.
name, please, and where you're from.
David Blumberg, Blumberg Capital in San Francisco. And this is not a question for The Onion, but you're welcome to answer.
The Onion answers all questions.
The question is, what are the most interesting business models you've all seen on the real-time web world, and where do you think that's going? The opportunities abound, but Twitter hasn't found one yet, so what do you think is going on?
Yeah, I can take that for a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, we've definitely had a lot of experience with brands and sort of advertisers that don't want to advertise against all kinds of content. And social media, of course, and the real-time web poses a lot of challenges. And what we've sort of realized is, a lot of them, they want to play in that game because they obviously understand that there is a huge audience, and they salivate over being able to, get to that audience and attract them towards their brand. But a lot of them don't understand how to go about doing that. I mean, some of them, they look at, maybe I should get followers for my particular Twitter account.
So what strategy have you seen that works?
What really works is when you play in a topical environment that works really well with the kind of advertising that they're trying to promote, right? So, if it's something against a Twitter profile, for example, it really doesn't make any sense because the person that's trying to consume that content, isn't really looking for that ad per se,
Sure.
right?
Yeah. And
do you want to add to that?
Yeah.
So not speaking as a fake news source, but just as a fellow geek, one Read Write Web has a great report on real-time web, and it analyzes a bunch of business models. But there's actually a guy here I just met yesterday, Ed Young, at Worldwide Live, and they have an iPhone app that creates channels around artists, and artists can send messages just to their Worldwide Live audience, so exclusive things. They have location-based notices about concerts, CD signings, etc. So they're not selling the content, but they're sort of selling this relationship between the artist and this very excited community. And I'm sure they're doing advertising. It's probably going to get a lot more targeted, et cetera. But that's something that people seem to want to pay for. People love celebrity, and they love art.
Loic?
I think brands should not make the mistake that getting the followers or the number of fans is not the most important, and all those numbers are very often very fake too. Like if you look at some brands who got millions of followers, they were just featured, and that's why they got so much. So you should be very careful with numbers. I think the most important thing for a brand right now is to get in the conversation and answer every single piece of feedback. And on Twitter, it's easy because you have a public search, right? Which we don't have on Facebook yet. But I found it myself as a small startup. We have 3 people answering Twitter 24 hours a day. So we have 1 person in Europe, 2 in San Francisco. If you ask anything about Seismic, we will answer. And that's my advice to brands, which I think is much more important.
In terms of business models, in terms of how people can make money from this?
Well, you get deals, for example. You get Dell is selling stuff on Twitter. You have a lot of e-commerce brands. eBay is also having a deal stream. And there is a lot of brands who start, basically selling more thanks to their community. But I think it starts by being in the conversation first.
Right.
If you only stream, and don't listen, it doesn't really work.
Look, I would argue for sure that any brand that doesn't have a chief listening officer within 2 years will have issues with their competition. And in fact, if you work in a company where people are not except you guys, because you rock, right? Because if you want to know someone's opinion, you tell them what it is. I understand that, but for other folks that are in the consumer space, listening is really key. So is engagement, but I do think listening is key. I do think that what we're going to see as an after effect is the rise of what I'll call consumer-to-consumer marketing, where people's opinions from their friends will drive product sales much more than relationships.
I tend to buy much more from brands that I know are listening. For example, I took a flight on Virgin America, and it's amazing.
At Virgin America?
At Virgin America, and I congratulated them because there is Wi-Fi on board and it's cool. And then the plane was delayed, and you have a pilot coming, talking to you and explaining why the plane is delayed. And they're just super cool. And I tweeted it, and in a minute I got a reply. I tend to be, much closer to those brands, and I think that's the most important investment a brand
can do. Virgin America loves you, we know.
Yeah, and some brands really understand this very, very well. Take MTV for example, right? Those people, they encourage any kind of discussion around MTV, whether it's good or bad. They love it when people trash MTV because they know there's 20 other people that are going to support MTV, right? Whereas if you look at other brands, they're like Kraft, for example, right? They're very, very sensitive to their brand and what kind of content that they're associated with. So they shy away from a lot of sites, a lot of avenues that otherwise someone like an MTV would be more willing to participate in.
A question over there? Yes, in the center.
Hello. I don't know if this mic is working. Hello. My name is Mike Butcher, at Mike Butcher. I'm the editor of TechCrunch Europe. Question for the panel is...
I want the same T-shirt.
Yeah, you can get this at Mike.
You should show your T-shirt to everyone. You have
come
your
on
face.
stage, Mike.
Come on stage, show your T-shirt.
Come here, come on.
That's like the best branding in a conference I've ever seen.
All right, yes. All right, now go back to the ask the question, please.
Okay, so the question is the real problem with the real-time stream is just a fire hose, and many people here will follow a lot of people because they're like journalists like myself. We follow lots and lots of people because it's like radar for news stories. It's fantastic, but it becomes incredibly impossible to manage. What you really want is intelligent filtering. You want intelligence to come out of the stream, and obviously companies like Seismic will be able to target advertising and God knows what else. So how are we going to get this filtering? How are we going to get this intelligence?
Go ahead.
One of these guys can talk about actual intelligent filtering, but I would challenge the premise a little bit, right? Either we can filter the stream, or we can filter ourselves, which is to say, don't feel obligated to read everything. Like once you set up your basic streams or the software has algorithmically processed it for you, just see it as a stream that you dip your the way I see it is a stream I dip my toe into, not as a glass of water or I have to constantly be consuming for fear of missing something. We're always missing something. There's 6.5 billion other people doing something I don't know about, and that's great because I'd go crazy if I knew. So I think part of the answer is learning to manage our own expectations and let go, but there's probably a smarter techie answer about the actual filter.
No, I mean, it's, like I mentioned before, when you look at something like radio or TV, right? I mean, there's the volume of content is pretty much the same. I mean, you've got thousands and thousands of channels today if you look at any kind of satellite or TV, right? And how do we manage that? We've got, there's programming around it, right? So you've got channels, you've got some editors around there that choose the kind of programming that you want there. So, by its nature, the system has built up a certain number of curators that people value, right? So you've got a number of people in either Facebook or Twitter that, you sort of tend to sort of gravitate towards a little bit more than you do other people. So, this is a medium where people help filter other people, right? So it's, that's one of the things that's worked, I think, most effectively in this kind of medium.
I would really rather follow what my friends have filtered for me, which I do daily, than the press, honestly. I trust my friends much more than the press when, we used to watch TV and media like that. I'm just kidding, of course. But I think the filter, we have to do a much better job at telling you what's trending, what your friends are saying, where do they go. And so filtering, giving you the trends among your friends, and that doesn't exist yet. And we're definitely working on that. But I'd like to know what's trending among my friends. And same with location, right? And I think we're building an amazing, the whole ecosystem here. Like at CES, for example, this huge conference with 150,000 people, you could tell where people were at which party in real time, thanks to Foursquare and Twitter. And I think for me, that filter works pretty well. It's where do my friends go, or what do they read? And if it's important, it finds me, is really much more powerful, and the traditional media are adapting to that.
I would argue that, from whatever platforms you're using to actually experience this, that as time goes on, they become more intelligent and more intuitive. I mean, one of the reasons why I think Twitter actually became successful, it's the first platform I'm aware of that actually changes functionality based on the culture of the people who used it. Back when Twitter launched, there was no such thing as @replies. There was no such thing as retweets. There was no such thing as supporting hashtags. But it's the first platform I've seen. Facebook, on the other hand, reacts to Twitter in a way that I've been an avid Facebook fan for a long time, but I feel that if Facebook doesn't focus on innovating Facebook, they're going to have some issues. That Twitter has fundamentally, it's a public infrastructure. Facebook's fundamentally private. And when you try to mix metaphors, you break things as opposed to enhance things. But I do think over time we will see the filtering happen because it's a natural evolution of where things go. We have time for one quick question, so just try it.
My name is Patrick Deleve. I'm co-founder of The Next Web. It's a blog and a conference. And also co-founder of Twitter Counter, which is the largest statistics.
So we only have a minute, so please just...
Well, I wanted to address, we actually did a lot of stuff with earning money on Twitter. And,
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I didn't hear the two features I think are easy to make money off, and that's how we do it. First of all, it's statistics for businesses. People are interested in statistics. They have to, tell their boss how they're doing. And the second of them is what I saw in Seismic Look as well, is featured users. Although it's not always on numbers, but we have clients as Paulo Coelho, 50 Cent, 2 Millionaire, who, if they come out with a new book or a new CD, 1,000 more visitors is actually getting them more money, more marketing power. So I was hoping to hear more of that from you guys, but I'd love to talk to you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys for being part of the panel. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of DLD. Thank you very much.
Thank you.